Welcome back to another episode of Straight Facts. I'm joined by the one and the only Jessica Black. How are you?
I'm good. Happy to be here right before our game. I'm so nervous. My stomach is already like
I bet.
turning a little bit. But yeah. And I heard that people in the comments were calling me a buzzkill or something like that. I'll try not to be that today. How
Yeah,
about that?
you do have this reputation like killing the mood, like a fart funeral. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, only when it comes to Arsenal, chat. If we speak about anybody else, you're great crack. It's as soon as Arsenal comes up and you feel there could be a slither, a quantum of negativity, it's like, no, we're shutting this down right now.
Well, I'm the leader of the cult, so I got to keep things in line.
Yeah, this is
I
true.
mean,
This is true. But I'm glad you're good. I'm not so happy today. I'm in mourning. I'm in mourning.
mm,
I'm in mourning.
are you shocked? Like, are you surprised at what happened yesterday?
No. I'm not. I'm more surprised by the reaction of fans in relation to who and what they're focusing on. But I know we're going to get onto that later. We've got a packed agenda today, people. We are talking Bruno Fernandes. Is he now the problem? Another big game flop. 39 times he lost the ball over 2 games. We're going to delve into that. We are going to be speaking about Paul Scholes and him slamming Ralph Ragnick for the way they played. And, a lot of people are kind of going for Ralph on this, and Ralph's this and Ralph's that and Ralph's the other. So we are going to touch on Manchester United today. So any questions you have, get them in. We will talk a little bit about Arsenal, Liverpool a little bit later. We've already done that on like 3 shows on the terrace this week, but we will get back to that. Of course, we're live later for a watch along. I've got a message in, but we could have a very special Liverpool fan back on the terrace tonight. He's back from the dead. He is risen, people. He is risen. I'm not going to let you know who that's going to be, but I'll let you know. But yeah, I wanted to start though with Chelsea. I wanted to start with Chelsea today. And viewers, make sure like buttons are being hit and everything else. And I'm quite liking this. I've got a new table in the studio here, so I can now sit on the armchairs. I can sit back, just relax. The best way to do a podcast, just chilled. I'm actually going to take my shoes off, my feet up on the table. Oh, it's very comfortable.
Is anybody else in the studio with you?
There's people working in all the other rooms around it. But yeah, just
Because
me.
you don't want to blow anybody out now that you've like taken your shoes off.
I
They
wash
smell.
I wash my feet and I wear clean socks every few days, so I'm fine. Do you know what I mean? It's all good. But I want to start with Chelsea. Because I didn't have the time yesterday to really talk about it and digest it. But I've kind of seen Chelsea fans in the past sort of 24, 48 hours raging about people's questioning over whether they should get involved with the Saudi media group. Chelsea fans feel like the whole world is out to get them, that everything that the government is doing is to hurt Chelsea. Chelsea then made a request to have their game against Middlesbrough, of course, up in Middlesbrough, played behind closed doors because they were not able to, give tickets, sell tickets to their said their fans. There was even some outrage because there was meant to be a charity event happening soon, and Chelsea were going to be giving away tickets, but they can't give away any tickets to people to come to a charity event because it's not under the rules and regulations. There's a big kind of everybody's out to get us mentality with Chelsea. When they did that big request, of course, it created outrage across social media, the mainstream media, and with football fans. Do you feel like Chelsea fans are being hard done by? Or do you think there is an element now of them taking this far too personally and not really reading the room, surrounding what's going on?
Well, the short answer is no. They're not being treated unfairly. Look, there's what's actually happening, and then there's the media. And I can see from a media standpoint, it might feel like Chelsea is getting, just lambasted from every single side of the media. But let's just go back to the source. There's a catastrophic, like, world event happening right now, you know, and that has had a ripple effect that has affected Chelsea Football Club because of their owner. And the sanctions and all of that, that is a product of that. It's not personal. It's Roman's perceived connection to what's going on with Russia and Ukraine. So that is not personal. When it comes to the media, Chelsea fans for years have been screaming at, Arsenal fans and Manchester United fans and Liverpool fans that they're the biggest club, they're the biggest this, especially to Arsenal fans, they're the biggest club in London, blah, blah, blah. Well, this is what happens when you're a huge club. When big things happen to you, the media latch onto it and they don't let go. They want the clicks, they want to put their messaging out there. And that's just the reality of the situation. A huge world event has happened that has affected Chelsea Football Club. And because you're such a huge entity, it's in the media and you're going to have to hear about it. And there's a guy that I know well from the Arsenal Vision podcast that was kind of talking about how when you are a fan of a club that has an owner like Roman Abramovich, most of your times are going to be good and you're going to have to hear about how they got their money every once in a while. I feel like that's a good trade-off, isn't it? So don't cry and moan and because you have to hear about it now. It's been years since anybody has really went this deep, to talk about where Roman got his money, and it's affected you guys. It's never affected you guys. So it's a good trade-off, right? All the trophies, all of the accolades, being the biggest club, being this, Champions League winners. Now you guys have to hear about it. So it's kind of like just suck it up because again, it's not personal. Huge world event has happened and it's kind of weird that it just feels like there's no ability to look outside of Chelsea. It's just not just about you guys, but that's my take on it. Do you feel like they're being treated unfairly or am I being too harsh?
No, I don't think they're being treated unfairly at all. I feel like, just as you've said, they're a product of the situation, if that makes sense. Tyrone here says Chelsea are an asset of Roman, can't sanction him without sanctioning his assets, and that's part and parcel. He is one of Chelsea's assets. Chelsea are one of his assets, and it's come under scrutiny. Now, I understand that Chelsea fans will look at it and think, well, this owner of this club did this owner of that club did this. This club is owned, but the Prince of Saudi Arabia, and Saudi Arabia has got all these issues in the world, and I understand that there is a moral and integral discrepancy between the way certain owners are assessed, the way certain countries are looked at by the UK government. I understand this, and that doesn't need to be explained. I'm not a geopolitical expert, but I do know that there is a difference in how our relationship with Russia is different from our relationship with Saudi Arabia, which is different from our relationship with France. I'm just throwing in there for a laugh. Chelsea fans, I even heard Rio Ferdinand say this, and I thought it was so off point. It was unbelievable. When essentially when I saw him say it, I read that he said it, so I haven't heard the whole context. I will put that out there, but that he believes this has become like a witch hunt for Chelsea. Now, certain sports journalists that have been talking about sports washing for years, of course, are going to hone in on this and be like, it's right, it's right, it's right. Of course, rivals are going to go and do videos. You had man like Don Robbie and Expressions doing a pretend like charity thing, trying to raise money. You had Troops making videos, bantering them. I've kind of refrained from doing that. It's not really my thing, but I find other people doing it funny, right? That isn't targeting Chelsea in any weird way, shape, or form. Those journalists would do it to any club they feel is owned by somebody that's sports washing. Boris Johnson is not sitting down in his office going, right, how can we destroy Chelsea Football Club? He's not doing that. It isn't a targeted approach. The sponsors are accountable to their shareholders, and they're worried about reputational risk. The Premier League do exactly what they're told to do by the government on issues such as this. The bank, Barclays Bank, freezing the accounts. You have zero choice. Barclays could face up. the percentage of fine could be in the tens of, if not hundreds of millions, if they refuse to do it. I am not going to block Chelsea's accounts. It is not fair on those fans. Barclays, they're not going to do it. They're not going to risk their licenses. They're not going to risk being fined for you. This for me was typified yesterday, and I didn't really have time to digest it when I was speaking on SF yesterday with Lee. But this request, and when you look into the request behind trying to get the game against Borough played behind closed doors, it's embarrassing for Chelsea. And it's embarrassing for Chelsea because how are you at a disadvantage playing a team whose squad isn't worth as much as Kai Havertz? Your squad is worth over £1 billion. And this is what annoys me when it comes to sporting integrity. We always throw out words like sporting integrity. Where's the sporting integrity when the big rich clubs spend hundreds of millions of pounds on their squad to compete against teams that have nowhere near as much money? We don't worry about integrity then, do we? We don't worry about integrity when one of our players dives and wins a penalty that he shouldn't get. There's no integrity. Chelsea didn't show any sporting integrity at the weekend when Newcastle should have had a penalty. They didn't go, do you know what we're going to do? We're going to put the ball in the back of our own net to make up for it. And by the way, they shouldn't do that. Sporting integrity is that word that's been thrown around ever since Rona came in, to try and convince people that things have got to stop. Oh, it's sporting integrity to null and void Liverpool's season. No, it isn't. You want it to be null and void so Liverpool didn't win the title. Let's have it absolutely right. Equally, where were Chelsea's requests yesterday to have all their home games played behind closed doors as well? Because for all of Chelsea have got an advantage in home games because they can't sell casual tickets to away fans. So the likelihood at home is you may not have a capacity crowd, but it's going to be predominantly Chelsea. So why did they not request to have them pay behind closed doors for the integrity of the game? For me, I feel like a few things Chelsea have done in the last few days, it's been terrible reading of the room. It will lose people. I've had sympathy with the fans. I've had sympathy with a lot of fans. I know a lot of good Chelsea people, especially Chelsea fans I knew growing up. But this type of behavior, it's embarrassing. And I know that most Chelsea fans in their heart of hearts, when they saw the news that request was made yesterday, they cringed. Proper Chelsea cringed and thought, what are we doing? Now, I've seen Chelsea fans, not slam Roman, but I've seen Chelsea fans come out and say, do you know what? It's not nice this is happening, but Roman's X, Y, and Z. This is going on in the world, and it's absolutely right this has happened. And the irony in it is this. Everybody wants the UK government, the American government, the Premier League, the newspapers, the journalists, and they want us all to act with wonderful integrity. But we never want to be the victims of that moment of integrity first. So no club wants to be the first club where a government says your owner's got to go because of their bad behaviors in a human sense. I don't mind being second, third, fourth, fifth, but I don't want to be the first one to be made an example of. What some Chelsea fans could have done in this scenario is shown great credibility, great love for their club by saying, do you know what? Roman's been brilliant to us, but his connections to this atrocity mean he can't be here. And well, thank you. Please sell the club quickly. We need to move on because Chelsea Football Club is bigger than anybody. He said it himself. He was the custodian of Chelsea. Chelsea Football Club are bigger than Roman Abramovich. But at the moment, Chelsea fans are making Roman Abramovich Chelsea Football Club, and he isn't. The club is bigger. It has a history beyond him.
But doesn't that kind of speak to maybe because there's also a part of Chelsea's fan base that probably doesn't exist online or on Twitter. They go to the games and they've been going to games forever, and Roman came in and it's over and they're just moving on. But I think this kind of speaks to, there is a part of the Chelsea fan base that only know Roman and Roman's money. They don't really know anything beyond that, or they haven't experienced it. So Roman is a big part of it, but there's some people that are elevating Roman as if he's some godlike figure, and he couldn't have possibly done anything wrong. And if he has, I don't care because of what he's done for us. That's sports washing at its finest. It brainwashes the fans into not wanting to speak out against their owners when things don't go right. And then there's the fans that are burying their heads in the sand, the ones that will speak up on everything, speak up on everybody else's club, but now that it's them, they want to be quiet on it. And it just feels a little bit like in a part of the Chelsea fan base is kind of showing their behind a little bit. And it's just kind of, you want sympathy, you don't want the media to talk about you, you want people to see it from your side, but it's just very hard to feel bad, you know, when you're not even able to just say Roman has ties to a war that's catastrophic and wrong. He has to go, but
I,
we love
yeah,
him but we're willing to let him go. It's just that
exactly.
simple, but I don't see enough of that.
Yeah, I think what's interesting for me is I spoke to a few of my Chelsea pals the other day, and they were like, "Oh, I'm going to put this out and I'm going to tweet this." They kind of asked me for advice because they're not content creators, and they're like, "Do you think I should do this?" I'm like, "Listen, social media is now your online digital CV or resume, as you'd call it in the States. Be very careful what you put out and what you say, because none of us know what's going to come out in the wash from this situation between Russia and the Ukraine. No one knows what facts, what documents, what evidence is going to come out when this all ends." And some people might be like, because I've seen people say Roman's done nothing. He has no connections. He's not involved at all. He's just been, he's had a few pictures taken with him. I'm not accusing Roman of anything because I don't know, but I'm keeping my powder so dry because you don't want to be the person that fills your timeline up with Roman love. And then it turns out the geezer's a monster. I'm just putting that out there. Be very mindful that you want to, essentially, what's the expression? Like, you want to sit on the right side of history on this. And that's why, for me, I know a lot of good Chelsea fans. Tahir Khan, he's one of them here, good friend of the terrace, says it was a bad move by Chelsea, but I can't imagine the stress the board are under. Hopefully, this is the last era. And I hear you on that. The board is under pressure in certain regards. And yesterday was just about Chelsea fans condemning it. But I saw so many like, "Oh, look, everyone's against us still. Why is everyone having a go at us?" It is what it is. There's a comment here that says this isn't about Roman anymore. It's about punishing Chelsea fans, stopping ticket sales. Well, that isn't true. This has just come out 20 minutes ago from Nazir Kinsella. The UK government are working to ensure Chelsea don't have any problems with tickets after the international break. There's an appetite to get it resolved. There is a possibility Chelsea have an owner will have an owner decided by the Brentford game. So it appears what's going to happen is as soon as Chelsea Football Club announce who their new owner is going to be, that a lot of the sanctions against the football club may be lifted. But the reason the sanctions have to stay in place is because at any moment right now still, Roman could refuse to play ball. I'm not saying he will, but he could. And sometimes there's an element of diligence that's needed and contingency that's needed. I don't think that the government are happy about how Chelsea fans feel, how the staff at Chelsea Football Club feel, but they have a job to do here. They have a job to do. And I know people think it's personal, but this would happen to any. I keep seeing people say things like, "Yeah, but what about clubs that are owned by like American owners?" I'm like, well, show me the connections to the things that show us the connections. What have they done wrong? Like, they're not from a sanctioned country. What? Yeah, but what about the things Boris Johnson has done? Boris Johnson doesn't own a football club, or
But what does the UK government get out of it by punishing Chelsea fans? Like, what do they get from that aspect of things? I feel like there's this forced disconnect between Roman and Chelsea and what he's doing and the fan. Like, it's all connected, you guys. So of course you guys are going to feel the brunt of what the UK government is doing to Roman because of his connections to Putin. But they are not sitting there in a boardroom saying, what can we do to Chelsea fans today? What can we do to inflict pain on them? And I just want to read this out really quick because Rob Harris just tweeted about the Chelsea shirt sponsor. Three says there's ongoing issues with removing the 3 logo from the shirts as a result of kit supply issues and license restrictions. We have requested that Chelsea reverts with a solution to this as soon as possible. And I think the 3 situation is a very good example of Chelsea fans maybe losing the plot just a little bit because the amount of videos and tweets that I've seen just hurling abuse at a company that's just trying to keep themselves distanced away from a globally condemned war, like, it just shows how disconnected the fan base is from maybe some reality. And this is not all fans, but there were a lot of tweets saying F3, forget about 3, you can't come back. We're going to, and trying to go to their stores and it's strange behavior.
I saw a couple of content creators saying that. I'm like, listen, the next time when free offer you some new hospitality tickets to go to a game, I guarantee they're accepting. I don't take the virtue signaling. Well, Sid here says, name one billionaire that does not have dirty money, Terry. Well, do you know what, Sid? But Roman is not being sanctioned because of how he got his money. This is the irony in all of these comments here. Roman hasn't been made to sell Chelsea because essentially, and I'm going to water this right down, just because he stole money to become a billionaire from the working people of Russia, which is essentially what I've read that he's done. That isn't why he's been sanctioned. It's due to what the UK government believe to be very strong connections with the leader of a country who has invaded another sovereign land. Now, the point I'm making is this. I know there are many atrocities that are going on around the world. And what I will say is this one. If the Glazers are connected to these atrocities, take the club from them. If Saudis, well, we know what, that the Saudi prince has been connected to, take it away from him. You won't see me crying for anybody. The point comes, though, is this. Well, let me ask you this question of Chelsea fans. Do you want the government to take this moral higher ground and do this? Or do you want it to allow, or do you want anyone that's connected to anything in the world to be able to own football clubs? That is the question here. It looks like you're going first. You're the first ones to be punished and damaged by this. But if the precedent is set, it's going to happen to others at some point. And I don't think it would just be because of war. I think they will start to do more of it. The problem that happens, we've seen this in football and in life many times, when you need to set a precedent first for this to happen before things get better. And I don't think this is a targeted approach at Chelsea. I think most Chelsea fans have, we've had Daniel on the show, Matty on the show, all been very calm and collected about this. But I think there's just this, someone said a moment ago, like Simon Jordan said that the whole ticket situation was wrong. They've also got to be fair to the UK government, because there'll be a lot of other companies in the UK. So that we ordered our scarves for the terrace to be made, the Legends and Members scarves. The manufacturer has gone bust. So the company you order them from don't make them. The company that make the scarves on their behalf have gone bust because their biggest client was a Russian client and they can no longer fulfill the orders. They've gone out of business. So how do you think that manufacturer is going to feel if Chelsea are still allowed to operate as normal, or pretty much as normal, to bring their money in, but yet his business has been, this guy's lost his business and his income, and he done nothing wrong. You know what I mean? And this is the thing. They have to have a sense of fairness within it. And I think what you'll find is going to happen, again, layman terms, because I'm a moron compared to some of these political experts, but as soon as Chelsea get to a point where they say, right, we're going with Nick Candy and his consortium, and that's agreed, I think there'll be lots of the restrictions lifted, as long as that process still continues, because they know there's a solution at the end. So the government can justify it to, by the way, the UK government has to justify itself to the rest of the world, whether we like it or not. It's like, yeah, we're allowing these things to happen because there's a clear exit plan. Great, fine. And I just think Chelsea fans have just got to remain a little bit calm and understand that this is bigger than Chelsea Football Club. And personally, for me, it isn't about them. And the whataboutism, what about this owner and that owner? I hear you. So then if you believe that those other owners should have their clubs taken, then fight for that. But it doesn't mean you're being hard done by. Super Chat here didn't say anything, but thank you very much for the donation that's come through. The UK government are arming other wars. I hear that, and I hear you, and you are right. But that makes it a Russian thing. It doesn't make it a Chelsea thing. Again, there's a difference. There's a difference for me between those two things there. It's all about the war and not funding Roman. Why the UK government is stopping free tickets for the memorial service later in the week. And I understand on that. For things like that, I totally agree. That for me is a madness thing. My question would be, has it been explained? Have they been asked about that? They're giving away free tickets where there's no money being raised. I completely agree with that point there. What I would say to that, though, Red Wolf, is it's almost when you get these situations and you're looking for a reason to find, you're looking for that confirmation bias that this is a Chelsea targeted approach. That's what stands out. See, that there has nothing to do with money in Rome, and therefore this whole thing is an attack. And of course, you do realize as well, the government are not just focusing on Roman and Chelsea. They've got a lot of other things going on at the moment. Like,
it's not like Usmanov didn't have his yachts taken from him. Like, it's not just Chelsea. You're the biggest club in the world, right? So obviously it's going to feel bigger. The media is going to make it bigger. They're going to talk about you. So that it feels like it's just you, but it's not.
And listen, this comment here says the same very government getting applause or punishing a football club are making deals, oil deals with Saudi. The hypocrisy is on another level. And listen, my friend, I hear you on that. I've spoken about that all along, but they're not. You've got to remember that's the way the world has been, and the way the world is always going to be. There are, and in 10 years' time, there'll be a new enemy. And in 20 years' time, there'll be another new enemy and another new person. And, that's the way it works. The government aren't targeting Chelsea fans, but a club that Roman loves and puts so much into. However, how does this help with anything? This will change nothing and will not help the Ukraine in any way. Well, I think what the point of it is to do, I mean, it's working well, again, I say it's working. I can't speak on this stuff because I'm not an expert, but I saw the outrage in some video footage from Russia of people going crazy because McDonald's have shut. And I think the idea around sanctions is you squeeze the people tight, you take away luxuries, you take away money, you hurt businesses. The idea is to make them turn on each other internally. That's what they're trying to do here. And it's almost this case of what it's done with Chelsea. It's made more people show love towards Roman as opposed to the opposite effect. And maybe that's because we're not in that country, maybe. But I do get your point there, Hussein. I agree with what you guys said, the issue, but there are wars which are funded by the West and the Saudis. If there is justification to that, then I'm okay.
That's where the conversation kind of shifts to, how the world is run, who is in bed with who's the perceived bad person and who's not. And so that is a completely different discussion. And like Terry's already said, there will be a time where those things will shift, and maybe the players that are being sanctioned now are not those players anymore. So then we start talking about politics and that kind of stuff. And I don't feel like that's really the conversation that we're having. I get that there are other owners that are involved in things, and so it doesn't feel fair because it's the same thing. But ultimately, when you look at it, this is a globally condemned war that is happening right at the moment. And some of the others, how do I say this? Some of the other wars that are going on are not being condemned by the powers that be in the same way. And that's as clean as I can make it.
You are right about that. And this isn't about my opinion or Jess's opinion on what wars and conflicts are right or wrong or whose side you should be on. The sanctions have been put in place upon Chelsea by the government. The governments that you're complaining about are putting those sanctions on people. So, the UK are guilty of this, but it's the UK that are putting the sanctions in place. Chelsea are being caught up as almost what's the word? The collateral damage in it. They're never going to sanction themselves for things they do wrong. That's what you need to understand here. It's always going to be from their standpoint. And I agree that there are lots of other atrocities in the world that I would love to see my government stand up against and sanction people and do X, Y, and Z. But they're in bed with those people. My point is that this isn't a targeted attack at Chelsea. Someone didn't wake up 2 weeks ago, right, how can we use this war with Russia to damage Chelsea's Premier League chances? That's how some people are wording it. And for me, that's so misguided and sort of main character syndrome in a very difficult and complex situation. Do us a favor, though, people, and hit that like button. It's important. We're here to have that conversation and talk through some things. Pundits and journos taking chances to end Chelsea is what iTest Merchant says.
That was one of my... Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Sorry, why should a club be punished if Roman Abramovich is no longer the owner?
Well, he is still the owner.
He is right now. And as we read earlier, as soon as the sale is agreed, this stuff goes away and it ends. And by the way, if it was a Chelsea targeted approach, nothing would fix it, would it?
Yeah. And my thing of like journos, and that is, I think that's the main issue with the Chelsea fan base is they're having to hear about it, and their club is being spoken about, or the owner of their club is being spoken about in a way that they don't feel comfortable with. So it feels like a personal attack. Whenever a big club goes through something, the media and journalists talk about it, and they talk about it to death, and they're not always going to talk about it in a positive light. So I think that's what it is I don't remember the last time. When's the last time that Chelsea Football Club has been spoken about in a way that wasn't positive?
I was going to be interested. I'm finishing the video. It's going to come out on Friday. I have done something that Chelsea fans are going to like, and it's one thing I will agree with the Chelsea fans on is there is this kind of notion at the minute that we need to go back to the good old era of good owners, of clean money and moral fiber. And I started doing some research into previous owners and senior board members at football clubs across the UK, and there are some absolute charlatans. Now, the point of the video is to ask a question at the end. And I used to do a lot of this kind of content in the past, like, what do you want? Because people talk about all billionaires are dirty. I do think there is a difference between a billionaire who advocates homosexuals being thrown off buildings and being killed to someone that maybe only allows his staff to have a half an hour break in an 8-hour shift at work. I think there are fundamental differences between those two things. And it's almost what I would love football fans to do is draw the line. How bad a person from a moral standpoint and societal standpoint can a person be to own a football club? What's the worst they can do before we say they can't own a football club?
That's going to be so difficult because everybody has a different threshold of pain when it comes to things like that.
And if everybody has a different threshold of pain, so do governments, so do regimes, and then you've got the Overton window to add to that. What's deemed acceptable today in 5 weeks, 5 years, 5 months, however long, it can change. The Overton window can change, and what's important to do or not to do can vary. And that's why it's a very difficult thing to do indeed. Thank you, Sid, for that super chat there, my friend, and everyone who signed up to being a member today. But Chelsea fans, listen, I do have sympathy with the situation that you find yourselves in, but it is going to resolve itself. It's just going to take a little bit of time. The crazy thing about it is in the grand scheme of things, you're going to get a new owner in the next few weeks. Nothing's actually happened here, barring a few games where some of you can't go to. Like, you've won both your games so far. You'll beat Lille tonight. You know, like, it's not like when you actually think about it.
Nothing's really happened.
Yeah, like, it isn't like you've been told you can't play and at the forfeit games and whatever.
It feels like it because you keep opening the Twitter app and all you see is journalists putting out more and more articles. This is cash in time for them, you guys. Something big has happened and it's time for them to cash in. Yeah. So that's all it is.
Paul here said there's still no evidence of Roman's involvement. Listen, Paul, I'm going to say this. The UK government is not going to share evidence it has, if it has any at all, just to prove to Chelsea fans their right to sanction him. That stuff is not for the Chelsea Football Club. It isn't for any of the businesses that have been affected by this. We're not going to be shown that. Not now. Maybe never at all. Like, we don't know. We just don't know in relation to that. I would say, again, those are the types of things where I'm keeping very, very much in the middle, because you start saying, oh, he ain't done anything. You put that out there. I'll tell you what can happen. Last time I had a proper job interview, like back in the banking world, they conducted it. The company I work for runs checks where they search your name across all social media, and we were sent a pack this thick of a candidate and all the tweets and Facebook posts they'd ever made. Just be careful with the things you put out there, because you don't want to. You want to be. I'm saying to people, be mindful what you put out there, because the world is changing. Digital footprints are everywhere. I can't read that word. Is that meant to say sanctioning? Sanctioning the cutting up a journalist is bad. Oh, right. You're talking about the Saudi. Yeah, listen, brother, listen. I am not disregarding it. And I spoke about that when the Prince essentially took over at Newcastle. And it was a case of he's been allowed to own it. That's done. My issue then was I have Newcastle friends who are some of the biggest virtue signalers I've ever seen in my life. One of them's related to me. And then silent. And I remember this was the answer from people when he came in. Yeah, well, everyone else has got bad owners, so why can't we? That, for me, that's how we know football fans are not just football fans, but like in a football sense, are morally corrupt. You don't really care about all the, the black boxes that you post, what the owners of clubs do, what's going on in the world. People don't. I often feel like people don't really care. It's right. What do I have to say on Twitter about this subject to look good? The problem is, when you virtue signal, what ends up happening over time is you look like an idiot and a hypocrite, because something that you previously condemned is now contradicted by another action by somebody else. It's like, oh no, which one? owners that do these things should never be able to own clubs. Oh, my club's just been taken over by one of these owners. What do I do? Do I walk away from my football club, or do I find a way to morally justify it? Like, that's why, for me, just keep your mouth shut and talk football.
And
Like,
but I think that's
skill.
also why it's almost better, and like this is just my way of thinking, maybe it's the wrong way, but I have come to grips with the people that own these football clubs are probably not amazing people, you know, and we don't know how they got their money, but a lot of them probably not in great ways. Um, if you're okay with it and you're okay with your club having that owner, just be okay for potentially your time to come, your Chelsea moment to
Yeah.
come. Just know that at some point, because that's my thing. It's like, how many trophies has Chelsea won under Roman Abramovich? You've had so many good times that this is about a week, 2 weeks of time where you're going to have to hear about it until you get a new owner.
And this is
You
the
know,
thing. This is the thing for me. One of the reasons why I don't overly condemn it is this. Because if Man United were taken over by somebody from a country with human rights issues, or a billionaire that stole his money, or a billionaire who's got all sorts of issues, am I going to stop supporting Man United? And I need to be really open about this. Probably not. So rather than like, I did this for a long while in my life because I felt it was the right thing to do. I would condemn things that are okay. On Twitter, it's saying it's Joe Bloggs is right and John Smith was wrong. So I'm going to condemn John Smith because he was wrong. And I went through a period of doing this because it was the right thing to do. But every time I did it, I kind of felt morally hollow. I felt like, I was like, why am I doing this? Do I care about this subject matter? Do I know enough about it to be condemning? Am I doing it just to make myself look better or feel good? And the answer was yes. And as I've got older, I've slowly moved myself away from doing that. And I keep my powder dry, keep myself a little bit more in the middle, not because I don't care, but because things aren't always as they seem. And we've had many examples across society, whether it's Juicy Smollett, where it's like this big thing happens and we're like, oh my God, I can't believe they slam this and they say that. Turned out it was a complete lie. You get other examples that are completely true. I just kind of wait for things to come out in the wash. Like with Roman, I'm not going to condemn Roman or defend him because I don't know what he may or may not have done. You know, I'm really in the middle about it. If he turns out to be completely innocent, then I'll condemn it. If it turns out the geezer's been literally helping to build things that are now being used in the invasion, or he was part of the master plan, hypothetical, everybody, hypothetical, then I'll be happy that I didn't come out and say it's terrible how they're treating Roman, because we don't know if it is or it isn't yet. It's like, keep your powder a little bit dry. But when it comes to the virtue signaling, I just don't do it, because at some point it's always gonna come back to haunt you, if that makes sense, because you're always going to end up looking a bit silly with something else you do, if that makes sense. And when you don't mean it, when people actually tweet things they mean and they stand by it and you can tell they mean it, it never happens. But it's the people that are outraged by everything at every moment. They weird me out a little bit, those people. But there we go. Fans can't do anything about what the owners come. Sorry, fans can't do anything about what owners come in anyway. Oh, I get what you mean there. Yeah, well, to a degree, absolutely, absolutely. Listen, guys, make sure you're hitting that like and that share button for us. We're
Let's talk about United.
People in the comments a few minutes ago, like, Terry's just talking Chelsea, so he can't be asked questions about Man United. Look, we're here for another 45
We longed that out too. It was like 40 minutes of talking about
that. Yeah, I didn't expect to be a long chat though. Like, go on then. Let's talk United. What do you want to say?
Okay, let me be serious. Yeah. So yesterday was interesting. I thought Colleen did a really good job of basically putting the game, like talking about the match in a way that it really was, right? We know that the referee was crap, but like really you guys weren't very good. But it's almost like we just kind of expect it now. Like I wasn't shocked, you know, at what I was seeing. And I guess we've spoken about this so many times on this show and others about how like Ronaldo was the problem and now he's not the problem anymore because he scored that hat trick. And Bruno's the issue, but like you guys win when he plays and he creates the most chances. And when is the United fan base going to realize that it's like literally not down here? It's not really about the players anymore. Like that whole system needs to be ripped down from like the top to bottom. You know, you talk about this all the time, and there's a tweet about Bruno Fernandes losing the ball so many times. He's not coachable and all this kind of stuff. And I guess before we get to the macro of it, I do want to talk about Bruno because he's somebody that you really like. What is the issue with Bruno? Is he that bad of a player? Is he that good? Because he's at the top of every list of attacking metrics and all that kind of stuff. But when you guys don't play well, he's literally enemy number one.
So I think what you find is this: people that have their agenda, and their agenda can be justifiable in their own mind. And I don't think that Bruno, when he came in that first 18 months, he was scoring and assisting and creating at a rate that we'd never seen from someone in the Premier League who's just joined. It was from a midfielder. It was colossal. Some people didn't like him because he was doing so well. Some people didn't like him because he was a stick to beat Pogba with. Others didn't like him because he plays for Man United and it's a rival club. This period of late for him has been the confirmation bias. I told you he was a bad player. So he becomes the focus. He becomes the focus because they've been waiting to be able to call him crap. The same as, and we see this with all types of players. And you only have to you only kind of have to go, Lukaku will have it. I knew he's a flat track bully. Boom, he's done. He could go on a great run now and start scoring some goals in some big games. And then he'll go on then he'll have a bad game in a big match. And it'll be, see, told you he's absolutely awful at it. And Bruno is someone that's been playing terribly. So I'm not defending how he's playing in any way, shape, or form. There's been times of late I've called for him to be dropped. But I'll give you an example of where confirmation bias is mental. So in his last two Champions League games, he's lost the ball 39 times. And with Bruno, he's the only player I've ever seen the media and fans focus on how many times he loses the ball in a game. Kevin De Bruyne against Crystal Palace and against Everton lost the ball 42 times across those two games. If you actually go and look at the statistics and look at the highly creative players who are always trying something, people call it a Hollywood ball or like cross and inshallah, but they're trying to create something at all times. They're always going to lose the ball at a high rate. Now, of course, Bruno sometimes loses the ball in infuriating moments and times. You think, why'd you lose the ball there? Why'd you lose the ball there? But he doesn't lose the ball at an abnormally higher rate than Kevin De Bruyne's, than Trent Alexander-Arnold's, and anyone that's in the high percentile of creativity is in and around the same. And that's because he positions himself in parts of the pitch where he's likely to lose the ball at times. And of course, he attempts things and he loses out. If he was to not lose it, and he does have an issue. He does have an issue where sometimes he loses it in fairly simplistic areas because of a bad touch or his technique isn't quite where it needs to be. But that really only accounts for a very small percentage of the amount that he actually loses the ball. But Bruno becomes a focus because some people want him to be the problem. I've seen Maguire out, Rashford out today. Get him out of our club. Pogba's been getting this for years as well. These fans are deluding themselves if they think getting rid of these players is what fixes Manchester United. They are absolutely... I understand the frustration with the... I want Maguire gone. Maguire is not good enough for Man United. But selling Maguire alone and stripping him of the captaincy doesn't fix Manchester United. I implore Man United fans to wake up and smell the coffee. Like I've just said that, I've got an explanation for why Bruno's numbers are not abnormal. Of course, he's had some bad moments, but he's regressed as a player this year. He looks like every other Man United player now, where he looked like a standout individual prior to that. He was, just had a good 18 months. But what about the 2 and a bit years prior to that he was also performing at that level at Sporting Lisbon? And I see stuff thrown out there like, United have won nothing since he's arrived. Sporting Lisbon have won 5 trophies. Therefore, Bruno is the problem. Cool.
I love that.
I love that. Yeah, those stats are great. Sell Bruno today and change nothing else at the club. We do not get better. How do I know this? Because we've been in this situation for 9 years. We need a new coach. We need new players. Those two things are true. And I think the reason we need new players isn't even so much a ability element, because a lot of the players we're going to see leave are going to do well elsewhere. And you can timestamp this now, 44 minutes and 40 seconds in, on the 16th of March, 2022. Of all the players that are going to leave this summer, from Tuanzebe's to Pogba's, maybe Maguire's, maybe Rashford's, maybe Bruno's, whoever goes, Lots of them are going to do well outside of Manchester United. Lots of them are going to look sharp and on point. I'll give you an example. Your club, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang looks like a dangerous attacker again, a dangerous striker again at Barca. That isn't because Mikel Arteta was mismanaging him or not coaching him right, and it wasn't because Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang had lost his ability. It was because there was a jaded relationship. There was a professional conflict going on that was taking away from both parties, but they handled it amicably in the end. I've seen Aubameyang tweet Piers Morgan and speak directly to Troops. He was, I spoke to Troops about it yesterday in this room when he was on the terrace. And he was so lovely about Arsenal. There's no animosity. People are trying to create a beef. They're in a beef. There was a professional falling out, which was taking away from Arsenal a little bit and taking away from Aubameyang. They went their separate ways. Arsenal have got better. And so has Aubameyang. We're focusing at Man United again and again and again on players lacking ability, players lacking this. It's the toxicity at the club. Now, the example of Arsenal is a little different because that's one player. We have a number of players that don't want to be here. We've got some players that aren't good enough. We've got a club with no structure. We still don't have football people making footballing decisions, really and truly. Merton and Fletcher, the jury is still out on them. This big reset I'm hearing about at Man United has to take place in one area. Boardroom. Football making, that's where the reset has to happen. Because you can clear out forget who I want in or out. You think should come or go. Let's pick the biggest Ollie, Bruno, Rashford hating Man United fan out there. And I know who they'll pick to go. They'll pick they want the hair out because he can't distribute. AWB's got to go. Shaw's got to go. Maguire's got to go. Rashford's got to go. McTominay's got to go. Fred can definitely stay. McTominay's got to go. Rashford's got to go. Ronaldo's got to go. Those 8 players are definitely on the list of those people. If we get rid of those 8 and bring a new 8 in that you like, the guys that you think are going to ball out, but we change nothing at board level. We change nothing about the mentality of the club, nothing about the culture. In 18 months, 2 years, we're back here again. Just as I said when we were about to sack Ollie, anyone who thinks just sacking Ollie fixes Manchester United is deluding themselves. So for me today, I'm angry we're out. I'm angry with the performance. I'm angry with Bruno. I'm angry with Rashford. I'm disappointed with Pogba, the way he played when he came on. I'm infuriated at Pink Boots Maguire and his performances because they're not good enough. But I don't believe it's because they overtly lack ability. I believe their confidence is shook. I believe that the club has no winning ethos about it. There is nothing at the center that makes this club powerful anymore. It's gone. It's eroded. It's absolutely dissipated. And until that's rebuilt, it doesn't matter who comes in or goes. I'd be happy today if they said we're taking the captaincy away and we're selling Maguire. But that's a good move. But it's a very small piece of the overall puzzle needed to fix Manchester United. And we're missing a core of our club. And I'm not talking players. So for me, I'm not surprised to see all these different individuals being blamed for last night, because that's normal of Man United fans. My problem is I've been sitting here for 9 years watching it implode every single year, and we blame the same things each time. No coaching, no patterns, bad style of play. The players aren't good enough. And the manager's the issue. Bring in a better manager and this squad can win. We bring in a better manager. We make the squad even better than the previous manager had it, and then it fails again. And then what we do is we turn on the players for a short while, then we turn on the manager again, then on the players, then on the manager. And it's like, so we keep blaming them as 2 things over and over again, but nothing changes. Read the fucking room.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, I feel like some people have been saying this, but what I will say is that, okay, I'm an Arsenal fan. So when Man United lose, sometimes I get my little popcorn out, lay in my bed, turn on the TV, and go and watch the fan cams and watch them implode. It's fun. But this is the first time that I've watched those fan cams or any Manchester United content where there does feel like there's an overall kind of acceptance from a greater amount of Manchester United fans that it's a bigger issue and the club is broken. And I didn't see as much focus on players. I did still see like Bruno's not good enough, Maguire's not good enough. I saw that stuff. But I think there's kind of like a realization, when you're on the biggest stage and you can't compete, and like you watch your contemporaries like Chelsea and Liverpool play against better Atletico sides and just kind of breeze past them, or they get past them or whatever. And you guys struggle against a worse Atletico team where what they're going to do, and you just don't have the plan, you don't have the mentality, you don't have the culture. And it's when you fail at the biggest stage. And the funniest thing is that Jose Mourinho, like that video is going around about the football heritage, where he was talking about Man United failing in like the round of 16, like for years and years and years and years. You just realize that like it needs to be knocked down and built back up. And it's not just a player thing. There has to be a club like ethos and project. I know people don't want to hear the words project and process, but you have to have those things. And you're lucky that you're in a position now where a lot of the players that you don't like are coming up to their last couple of years in their deals. So you have decisions to make. You're going to lose a lot of money on them, but you got to let them go. And not only that, people are talking about, well, what players should Man United bring in? You need to focus on getting those players out and hiring a manager. And I saw people say, well, Ten Hag, he went out of the round of 16 as well. So do we want him? Is he really better than Pochettino? Are we really having these conversations in 2022? You go for the manager that Ralf Rangnick wants. And that kind of, if Ralf Rangnick wants Ten Hag, which is kind of what's been out there in the ether, that is who you go for. Because there's no reason of bringing this man in, having him suffer as a coach when he's not really a coach right now, but have to suffer, and be ridiculed and talked about. His like reputation is on the line, just to not bring him in the manager that he envisions being a part of this two-year rebuild that he's talking about. And that kind of brings me on to the Paul Scholes conversation. You had said that, Paul Scholes spoke poorly of Ralf Rangnick and kind of placed blame on him, when Ollie got none of the same treatment for the years that he was there. And I think I want to get your take on that, and how some of your fan base is kind of like placing the blame on Ralf Rangnick, but how that sets a precedent when your biggest legends are out there just kind of talking nonsense. How does that look? That makes no sense. Ralf Rangnick is not he's not on trial right now.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I've seen kind of rivals do it where they're like, oh, it's terrible this and terrible appointment that. And listen, I said at the time, I thought we'd improve in terms of how we play football. And I actually think our general approach play has been better under Ralf. As a United fan who watches every single game, we still lack the mentality, and that will not be instilled until the club changes. I listened to what Paul Scholes had to say, and I've even seen some United fans talk about, oh, you kind of got your formation wrong a little yesterday. And I think we're getting to this point now with football fans where everyone's an analyst. I've stopped doing tactical videos recently because even they were annoying me, because people are trying to turn football into heart surgery, rocket science. Football is a very simple, you're slightly too narrow with the fullback yesterday and it isolated this player and it led to this overlap from the inverted fullbacks against Sancho that was outnumbered on 3-1. And I'm like, why are you talking like this is a maths lesson, bruv? Like, Man United were the better team for large parts of the game until we started to feel the pressure of time running out, and then we lost our minds. There was moments in the start of the second half, patient play. There was a chance that fell to Jadon that he volleyed over. I know he narrowed. I mean, it would have been a sensational goal if he scored. And we played with patience. And then we did it again. We built up on another chance. And we got to about 65 minutes and the patience went away. We made the substitutions and every sub came on and they were over anxious. It was beyond urgent. It was panic. And you can look at blaming Ralf, but I can't blame Ralf. I'm no longer blaming managers. Until we change something structurally, I'm not blaming managers, because this happens to all of them. It's happened faster to Ralf because he's come in mid-season and taken over a team that he's not built in his image. He hasn't had the money that Ollie had. He hasn't had the money that Jose had. He hasn't had the money and time that the LVG had. And he wasn't even at the level of LVG and Jose. But what annoyed me with Paul Scholes last night was the way in which he was so open and willing to like slam Ragnick should never have been given the appointment, should never have really been here. In nearly 3 years, he barely said a word about Ollie. And you'll be able to find articles where he did, but he barely said a word about him. And it annoys me because Ollie was given every opportunity to get this team to the highest level. In fact, Ollie built, and I'm not even going away from this, and this is why the ability question at United gets on my tits. It gets right on my tits because, I'll name drop him again. Troops was in here yesterday, and he said it on the show that's out right now on the terrace, by the way. The 12th man is out to go and watch it when you're done here. That he believed United were going to title challenge. I would say 95% of fans in the summer said we should or will challenge for the title with this squad. A lot said, but you won't win the league without a world-class DM, but you'll still be there or thereabouts. Now, suddenly, 15 odd players have got to leave. I don't think they do. The mentality has got to shift at the club. Being able to get through games like last night and remain focused and on point and not being veered away from the difficult times. And it's like anyone's job and career. You go through moments of difficulty day to day, week to week, month to month, year to year. If you panic and bottle it and walk away, and I see this in the social media front, people start and I'm doing really well, I'm on my way forward, I want to start to make this job and a career. You go through some hairy moments, especially in an industry like this where it's kind of like self-employment to a degree. Do you know what? I haven't had the work land in the last month that I was meant to have. Do you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to go back to a normal day job. Now, I did that when I wanted to be a stuntman. That's a really warped thing to bring up. I was desperate to be a stuntman and a screen fighter is what I wanted to do. But the money when you were working was great. I remember being 18. I was on a film, a TV set. It was a German sci-fi series called Star Hike, and it was like a spoof. And they had all these different actors in there from different sci-fis from the past. And I was doing some stunt work on there. It was great money, £250 a day. And I was 18. I was like, this is great. I then went 2 months without getting a single bit of work, and I had no money coming in. I bottled it because I wasn't prepared to stay calm through the adverse moments of not having money. So I went and got a job. And look, I went and got a job. I was selling phones. There was other reasons I started working in the phone shop, but then it's led to me having a good career, led to where I am today. But I still look back and see what a lot of my friends in the stunt industry have done and regret not sticking to it. It's part of me, there's a little regret in me that's like, I could have done that stuff. That's it. I've got friends that are doing it, and I'm like, I was as good as them. I could do what they do, but I didn't have the bottle to stick to it. I just didn't have it. And I look at Man United, they play that way. We can start off well. When the going gets a bit tough and it gets a bit hairy, we panic and we run off back to the steady job in retail. That's what Man United do. It's, we did really well with 28 minutes against City. And then we lost our way and we didn't have the whereabouts to keep going in that same way, the confidence to play in that way. If you can go toe-to-toe with City for 28 minutes and ball with them, and we did in that first 28 minutes, you've shown you can play. For large parts of yesterday against Atletico, we were breaking them down. We were creating chances. We were dominating the ball. We could beat them. We're better than them. What we don't have that they did is the mentality. PSG last week, they have better players than Real Madrid right now. I think they're a better team than Real Madrid right now, but not when the going gets tough, not when it becomes hard, not when it's about mentality over ability. And it's crazy because there's a YouTuber, I'm never going to out him, but he hates the mentality chat. And do you know why it bothers me? Because the reason this guy is one of the top content creators out there killing it is because his work rate and his mentality and ability to stay on focus and on his brand and on what he's doing is more impressive to me than his talent. And he knows that because he speaks about it. But when it comes to football, he acts like mentality isn't important. It's such a warped thing for me. So when Paul Scholes attacking Ralph Ragnick, for me, it's cheap. It's cheap and it's hypocritical and it stinks. It stinks to high heaven to have a go at a man who's trying to stabilize. I think we've become more unstable under him, but not because he's a bad guy, but because I think he's actually it's almost like he's pulling at the loose threads and everything's becoming a bit uneasy. And as long as this is where we can become fixed, though. These really bad moments can fix us if the Glazers listen. If he presents this back to the Glazers and says, look, these are the things that need to change. I can help you do that. Give me a job. let's bring the manager in and do it together, and they listen to him and they let someone like a Ralph make footballing decisions at board level, this club can be fixed. But if we have no Ralph or equivalents, same people running the club, I don't care whether it's Ten Hag, Poch, Pep, Klopp, all four of them together in a consortium of management, we'll foul. But what fans will do is focus on this player isn't good enough. This player is good enough. This player isn't good enough. This player is. It will be the same yo-yo, boring arguments again and again, while the real problem just continues to fester. What did I call it last night? A malignant pus of no, something. Just a malignant. I don't remember what I said.
I don't know either. I wasn't there.
Yeah, something about a malignant pus of oozing pus of something. I don't know. I said something like that. That's all they are. They are gross. They're gross. It's just anyway. That's my thoughts on Scholes.
I mean, that's so, because I guess right now, because there doesn't seem to, there's no trust or belief that things are going to change. It does feel like a very dark hour for Manchester United. It really does, because you really don't know what direction this can go in. It really could go in the direction of they listen to Ralph and you guys start moving in the right direction. It probably will be difficult. Not going to lie. It probably is not going to be like right away success, but in the long term, it'll be the best thing. Or Ralph doesn't go upstairs, or he does and they don't listen to him and they end up with the manager that they want instead of what he wants. And then you just continue to go down the spiral. And it's obviously, as a rival fan, it's fun to see, like, you know what I mean? But at the same time, growing up watching Man United and Arsenal play and having that level of like rivalry and stuff, it is a little bit like if Manchester United don't get their act together, they could fall into the abyss, you know, because this is just not the way forward. And I see so much mirroring between the two clubs. And you guys definitely are kind of in that place that we were maybe like 2 or 3 seasons ago, where you have good players, but you're not getting the results because the mentality is ass. And like, if anybody wants to argue about quality and all that kind of stuff, there is a slight quality issue in terms of like, you know, you could improve on players at Manchester United. But when you have teams like Wolves, you have teams like, I don't know, Arsenal, that most people would say don't have the same level of quality, playing better football and getting better results than Manchester United, West Ham, you know, it's not about quality. You know, it's not. It's the coaching, it's the culture, it's everybody singing from the same hymn sheet. And right now you have a bunch of individual people that when the going gets tough, they just start flailing. And that's what I saw yesterday, was a bunch of people flailing from the sideline to the guys that were actually on the pitch.
I couldn't agree with you more, and it's that's why the quality argument bothers me. I know we want better. You always want better. We need better quality to beat Liverpool and City to a title, in my opinion, and a better quality manager. There's no doubt. But it's again, we weren't beat by a brilliant team last night. We weren't held to a 0-0 draw at home by Watford being a brilliant team. Burnley, Southampton, Villa. These teams aren't brilliant. These teams are not pound for pound better than Man United. We do a lot of this at Man United. Man United fans do a lot. Oh, this player in this club's a baller. This guy's a baller. Half of them players are never going to play at Champions League level. You know, I've heard people say things like, oh, McGinn could do a job for us. No, I don't want a McGinn level player. I want better. I'm not suggesting that, like, these players are not much better than what we've already got. We think our players are bad because they lack the mentality of our football club. And the reason we know it's mentality is because Varane looks like nowhere near the player he was at Real Madrid. Sancho started to do better, but look how long it's taken him. Bruno from when he came in until now. Pogba, what Pogba is when he's not at Man United compared to what he is. People do this whole, he has to be playing further forward. The man balls out deep for France. Balls out. It's, again, all the excuses of Pogba over the years, it's not even Pogba's fault. It's the club's fault. And you go right back to the start of things. Remember, we signed Fellaini. Fellaini was a player that Arsenal fans were desperate for Wenger to sign. Desperate to put him in midfield. Wenger tried to. Wenger knows footballers, right? Wenger knows footballers. I've seen Fellaini play for Belgium on many occasions and do very, very well. Bruno Fernandes was wanted the summer before we bought him City were trying to sign him. Pep wanted Bruno Fernandes. Pep wanted Fred. Pep wanted Harry. This is what I've got to say here. Pep wanted Harry Maguire. It's not saying that all of Pep's signings come off, but he saw something and didn't get him. Klopp rates Bruno. Everyone rates Klopp. All the Man United fans, when Poch was at his height of his powers, Poch wanted Luke Shaw, Poch wanted Bruno, Poch wanted AWB to replace Trippier. The point I'm making is that coaches that are out there that are regarded as elite level in the modern day game by lots of the, especially the eye test merchants, that go, the players you despise, PSG, I know they don't have a great mentality, are going to lose Mbappe. Who do they want to replace Mbappe? Who's one of their top targets? Marcus, you guys don't rate Rashford. Top clubs and top managers want the players we say can't kick a ball. They can kick a ball. This club is just broken to pieces. And I know rivals don't like hearing that. Rivals want Rashford shit, Bruno shit, Pogba's a flop. Because it's like, oh, this is great. Last night when Sunshine was ranting about the refs being at fault, rivals loved it. Waffle, where we get to laugh at Man United fans.
I think from a rival's perspective, hearing the club is broken is a much better conversation, because when it's broken, if it doesn't look like it's getting fixed,
I agree with you. I agree with you. I agree that should, but it doesn't. What people want to hear is they want the low-hanging fruit. They want the players that manage to be slammed, not because what they see is if the club's broken, but then it's not Rashford's fault, then is it? And I want it to be Rashford's fault. I want it to be Pogba's fault. I want it to be Martial's fault. Because what do we all do? My midfielder versus your midfielder. My striker versus your striker. None of us do my owner versus your owner. So it's never about the owners for fans. It's always about the players. And I want to get to a point again where my clubs run to such a level where I can focus on the players being the main issues. If you're a club where a player flopping is your main issue, you're actually in a very good place as a club, because it means you just take that player out and bring someone in and you're fine. And Arsenal have got themselves back to that point in recent times. And a lot of people are saying, led by Arteta, and it partly is. It's actually your board that are doing a better job. And that's why I focused a lot on Arsenal recently about your board having to maintain this. Because if in this summer you guys don't invest right and you let certain people leave and you don't bring in the right players, Arteta will stall, not because it makes him a worse manager, but because he needs more to be given to him. Would Pep Guardiola's City team have been as dominant if the board said, yeah, you've had Bravo, you're not having Edison. You've had these two fullbacks, therefore you're not going to get Cancelo because you've had these other fullbacks. You can't have Grealish because you've already got Bernardo Silva and KDB and Raheem Sterling. Would Liverpool fans be as confident of winning the league if their board hadn't gone out and added Luis Diaz to one of the best front threes in European football? The answer is no. And that's all these things really matter. But I think to most football fans, they see it as an excuse as to why your players aren't performing that they don't want to hear. Ironically, when Hicks and Gillette were taking Liverpool backwards, they were the problem. The Cronkies were a problem for a while and everything else. But look, my club is broken. It's in the bin. I want to see the Paul Scholeses and the Gary Neville spend 90% of their time focusing on the Glazers now and not players and not managers. Maybe that's what we need more of. Like Rio Ferdinand, very respected in a social media front, great pundit. Focus on that football club. Because what I would love to see these guys, they often talk about the mentality of the club and the culture when Fergie was there. But that's because Fergie ran the club from top to bottom. Who's running the club now? Legit. I would love to be able to sit with these people and say, well, is Ralph running the club right now? Was Ollie actually running the club, or was he just an employee? Who is in charge? Because if Fergie was in charge, that made it so good, that we have to look at who's in charge of a football club. Directors of footballs and boards are more important now in the UK than they've ever been, because clubs are structured differently to the Wenger, Fergie, Paisley eras. They're different now. The managers aren't managers. They used to be the manager of the club. They have to manage the football club, and they just don't do that anymore. And it's a real shame to see. We have some more super chats here. This is from Mike Hill, who says, where do you think the mentality issue stems from? Pogba, for example, seems to have a very good mentality for France, but not for United. What do you reckon, Jay?
It comes from the top. Like, it really, really does. And I have a lot of examples of players that you just knew when they're good players and then all of a sudden they step on the pitch for you and they're not the same. There's something wrong there in the locker room, but it's not really from the players. It's the players that it comes from the top down, because it could be the players' mentality that have been brought in, but they could have only been there or gotten there because of the people that brought them in, or because you bring in good players that have good mentality, but you surround them with players that don't, right? Like Willian was not a bad player before he came to Arsenal, but I'm pretty sure the moment that he stepped into that locker room, he realized he wasn't in a winning environment. And so he relaxed. Oxlade-Chamberlain, I'm pretty sure when he left Arsenal and went to Liverpool, the first thing that they did is said, don't bring that Arsenal mentality over here. You know what I mean? Like,
well, one of the things that they spoke about with Ox is his fitness levels, as in like match day fitness, was poor. And that's because your players weren't working as hard or being made to work as hard in training. Wayne Rooney, one of our last great players at the club, said that in his last couple of years, the team would, Man United would, and fans hate hearing this because they hear the word dancing and Rashford, dancing and Lingard. And they're like, oh, they haven't got a man for dancing. But he said United would lose games. He'd walk in the dressing room and the players would be on their Instas dancing and having a good time. And he was like, when I joined, we lost a football match, even a slightly unimportant game. We're 8 points clear at the top of the league, and we drew a game. There was silence, and everyone was angry, and everybody stewed. There was a winning mentality, and he said it was just gone. It just eroded. Now, sometimes, Mike, I think it's the players. So the players start it, but it's the club for not stopping it. Yeah. So I'll give you an example. Rashford has leaked information recently. He has leaked information about him wanting to maybe leave and all this sort of stuff. The club should call his bluff and sell him. So you do not talk about that stuff. You do not go to the media and put us under even more pressure. For that, you're done. Make an example. Don't allow this. I would, honestly, if I was running the club, I'd be like, listen, especially on games where we lose, I want no one on their phones. I want nobody on their, I would ban all the players. I don't care what they say. I'd ban every player from an apology tweet after a game. Done. How you apologize to these fans is by your next performance. And we will say that in the program notes. We'll say we're banning it. No more apologies via, oh, keep your head up, son. Better luck next time. Oh, we move. I hate hearing the word we move now. It's like so overused. I know it says social media teams, but they're signing it off. All that ban from the club, finished, overdone. You show you're sorry by your deliverance. And I know me and you've had a lot of conversation before. And if someone says sorry to you, the word sorry means nothing. Actions speak louder than words. If someone's sorry, they'll show you in the way they behave, the way they treat you, and the things they do moving forward. And that's where Manchester United Football Club are completely and utterly broken, is that there's no accountability. Comment here says, loving Man United's downfall, like you switched with Liverpool. I don't quite get what you mean by the end bit, but if you're a rival, I'm sure you're loving it. Josh here says, Jess, our fan base does what's fashionable, blames the players, changes that manager. We've done it since 2013, which is very true.
It's like a very weird cycle because it's not just the players. I mean, and the reason why they're there is because the board allows them to gives them new contracts, lets them stick around, it puts them on big money, doesn't move them on. You're still talking about is Pogba going or staying. That should have been something taken care of a long time ago. Yeah. Like it's if the player is there and they're not good enough, ultimately the reason why they're there is because of the board. It always stems from above. So yeah, I mean, you got that whole circle of death that the fan base is doing. It's not.
I agree. It's just a weird. It's like a weird denial. But it's the same thing. And
it's like they're hypnotized or something.
I blocked me the other day, sent me a DM. I didn't want to do it publicly. I said, mate, I did tell you that sacking Ollie wasn't going to fix this. He said, yeah, you just backed Ollie. No, I said that sacking Ollie was pointless because the club ain't structured right. And again, until that structure's there, it's going to fall off. And when we're back here again in 2 years' time, I'm just getting to a point where I've just got to start saying, I told you so. Terry, did you see Rashford give the middle finger to fans outside Old Trafford for giving him criticism for his performance? Lost for words, man. Broken team. Relegation bound. Glazers and players don't care. I didn't see that, to be fair. I haven't seen that anywhere. But yeah, if that did happen, then absolutely shocking from him.
I don't think he did that.
I haven't heard about it. Dare I say it? Just if Klopp wins the league this season, does that put him over Arsene Wenger with 2 Premier Leagues in 6 years versus 3 Premier Leagues in 22 years, plus of course Champions League in that as well? Does that put him over Wenger? I'll ask you that, Jess. If Klopp wins a league this year, 2 leagues, Champions League and a League Cup in 6 years, is that a better legacy than after 22 years of 3? He's got 3 Premier Leagues, 7 FA Cups. That's it, right? He didn't win anything else.
Yeah.
He didn't win the League Cup. So 7 FA Cups, 3 league titles, or 2 league titles, 1 League Cup, 1 Champions League. What are you saying? I think he needs
Yeah, I
more.
mean that
I
feel like Klopp at least needs to be there for like 10 years, and then because he does need to win more, because I think the accumulation makes a huge difference. But I will say that, like, if it's very close, and I'm not ashamed to say that I feel not getting a Champions League really puts Arsene at a disadvantage in any conversation around the elite level managers, because all elite managers have it, and he didn't get one, even though he got close. That's not good enough. So I would say Klopp needs more of like the FA Cups. You guys obviously won the Carabao Cup this time around. But ultimately, I would not be surprised if Klopp's legacy was better than Arsene's at the end of the day, because he's an elite level manager, and winning the Champions League is a big deal. So we'll see how things shake out. I'm sure we'll have more of those conversations towards the end of the season when all is said and done.
I agree. I think what I will say in defense of Wenger is as well, the FA Cups, a lot of those earlier FA Cups, the FA Cup was such a bigger and more important competition back then. And I think, sometimes, for instance, like Cup Winners' Cups get disregarded as nothing. People forget how big the Cup Winners' Cup was. So I think it's important to remember that eras are different, and what tournaments are looked at in certain ways. I think Klopp needs some more trophies. So say Klopp wins another league title and another Champions League, then yeah, maybe. I think if he doesn't win another Champions League, he needs those domestic trophies. If he wins if he wins the FA Cup this year and the league, and then next year wins a Champions League and a League Cup, then suddenly you look at it and go, yeah, like you can argue that it is on that level. That's a crazy thing with Wenger. You think only 3 Premier Leagues in that time. And that's not a dig. It's just I feel like you won more of them. But
well, he won everything so early on, and then he spent like 15 more years at the club doing nothing really and keeping us in the top 4. We know how the story goes. So there you go.
Terry Hickson Gillette took Liverpool to the clutches of administration. Fans had every right to hound them out of the club. Surprised you'd brush that away. I haven't. I think that's what I don't know. I don't know what you mean by that, my friend. I've never brushed that away. I've always spoke about what Liverpool fans did to get that done, and Man United fans don't have the backbone. I'll be honest with you, Man United fans care more about going to the games, looking good on Instagram, buying the kits for their kids, than they actually do supporting the heritage of the football club, in my opinion. But no one wants to hear it. I tweeted it a little while ago and got pelters. I do believe if you give money to Man United Football Club, you don't love the club. That's been my take for a long time now. Or you love the club, but your love's misdirected is probably a better way of phrasing it. Because you do love the club, but you're feeding the drug habit, you're feeding the bad behaviors as opposed to cutting it away. And I always give you this example, and it makes sense to me, and I know not everyone likes it, but if one of my children was addicted to a drug, it's more loving for me to lock them in a room to make them go cold turkey than it is to go, it's okay, I'll end the pain and buy you what you need. That's what I feel we do at Man United. It's like we're buying the drug that feeds the habit and kind of keeps everything on this little even keel. But actually, over the course of time, you kill that person. And we've fed the Glazers and we've allowed them to get away with it for so long. We're slowly killing the club. What we might need to do is absolutely destroy the club by all pulling our money away, but for it to rise out better. That's always been my take. But no, Jess, I did see I have seen the picture of Rashford swearing. I haven't seen footage, so I don't know what they've said to him. But I've seen the picture. Someone just sent it through to me a few moments ago. Dexter says Arsene, Fergie, and Mourinho 0407 are a step above modern managers, bar maybe Pep recently, because they were all involved in almost every aspect of the club. Yeah, and it's again a very different era back then as well, no doubt. Where does Klopp rank if Liverpool win the quad? He goes, for me, he goes into that bracket of the top 5 greatest English managers to manage English clubs of all time. And then I think, again, the amount of trophies that Fergie's won still put him above him. But in terms of single season achievements, it'll be the greatest single season achievement of all time. It can't be argued, as an example. And it puts him into the top 5. And then I think it's about going through that top 5 and working it out. But yeah, doing a quad is just, again, this is one thing I say about myself. You will not hear me. I always talk about doing a treble is better than invincible, is better than 100 points. Doing a quad will be the greatest single season achievement football has ever seen. And the fact that if Liverpool do it first, it can never be matched. It's been, once you've done it, the team that's done it first is the pioneer. You know, just like with the Invincibles, like Preston did it first. They are the pioneers, and you can't take that away from them. You know, and you know, Spurs did the first team to do the double. You know, the only Man United only done better at that when we did the double, when we were the first team ever to do 2 doubles. You know, that's the only way you do it. The only way you would beat Liverpool doing the quad is to do the double quad, which is probably never going to happen.
Not going to happen.
Yeah, when you consider it's we're how many years in and no one's
done. The crazy thing is, like, with Liverpool and City going after like the same honors and all this kind of stuff, it's going to be so interesting because I think the only teams that can stop Liverpool from getting the quad is City and Chelsea, you know? And so a lot of these in Bayern Munich, but at the same, Bayern Munich is not in the FA Cup. I still think it's more the English teams that are going to become an issue for Liverpool. And that's going to, as the season kind of crescendos to an end, I think we're going to see a lot of games against these top teams that are going to really matter. And I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, it's going to be an amazing end to the season. It really, really is. In terms of tonight, though, Jay, how are you feeling sort of now 3 hours away or so from kickoff?
Sick. Like, I've said this many times. The team I like to play the least is Liverpool. They have our number and they have a real reason to want to stomp us out, you know, and they don't call them the mentality monsters for nothing. You know, I don't think they're going to, you know, there's some Arsenal fans that feel like, well, they'll buckle to the pressure. I'm just like, I don't think they will. I think that
you just join me in the studio, people. He's going to say hello quickly before we finish the stream. Man like Lies is here. What are you saying, people?
Oh, hi, Lies. What's up, Jess? Hey. But I don't think they'll buckle to the pressure. I think they're going to be at the height, like as they're going to be as good as they can be. They're going to be very aggressive. They're going to want to, and why wouldn't they be? They beat us so many times. Like, they literally, when it comes to Arsenal versus Liverpool, they rack up the goals. They're scintillating. They're really hard to beat. So I really do think when it comes down to it, Arsenal have to be at their very best to get anything from this game. And even though we've seen Arsenal at their best a lot lately, I'm not sure that best is going to be good enough because Liverpool on a mission is different gravy. But nevertheless, I expect a good competitive match. And hopefully we get something out of it. But I am nervous because there's just nothing like when they'll let you be in the game for a little bit, but when they turn it up that extra level, they're hard to live with, you know, and they don't play tiki-taka. They don't pass it around and put you to sleep with possession. They go right down your gut, you know, and it's hard, you know, and I don't think they have any players that are really out. Even when they had players out, we couldn't live with them. So, and Cedric versus Diaz is like,
I'm still going. I'm going to go over 2-1 Arsenal win tonight. That's what I think.
You don't actually believe, do you?
You gooners are so weird. Like, you praise your team and predict you're going to win, and you act like we're all lying and making stuff
but
up.
But like, why do you think we're going to win?
Why?
That's what I want to know.
Your home form is exemplary, and I think that you go into tonight's game with an air of freedom because you don't need to win. They do.
Is it a free hit?
No, it's not a free hit. It's a freedom. game. You'll want to win. Winning this game, I think if you win tonight, you get top 4 guaranteed. I already think you're going to do it, but I think it guarantees it.
Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I do want us to go for it. I don't want to see some weird modified lineup, and I don't think we'll see that anyway, because Arteta never really goes into games and says, well, this one is less important than the other. I'd be very disappointed if we went out with some modified lineup looking forward to the Aston Villa game. We kind of have to give our all in this one and just suck it up against Aston Villa. It is what it is, but we'll see where we are, really. We'll see where we are.
Yeah,
it's another litmus test, right? Litmus?
Massive.
Litmus?
Litmus.
Litmus? Litmus test.
I think it's litmus test, yeah. I mean, you are asking a very undereducated dyslexic Cockney. Is it litmus? Yeah, Lies is educated. Man goes uni. He knows, bruv. He's American as well.
I went to school too, and I didn't know.
It's not. It's Canadian, American, Algerian, and a bit English. It's everything.
Yeah. Is tonight a free hit for Arsenal? It's not. It's not a free hit. We can't go out there because the thing about it is if we go out there and get thrashed, there can be repercussions for the next couple of games that we have that we should be winning, but all of a sudden becomes so much more difficult if you're not feeling good about yourself. Stop looking at Lias and look at we're working right now.
I'm not looking at Lias. Lias is gone. If someone walks in, calm your big brain down.
We're working.
I'm the boss. I'm in control.
Guys, is Terry the boss or am I the boss? Is he keeping the terrace warm for me? Am I paying him a salary while I'm on vacation?
You're very cheeky. In fairness, it all belongs to Snack, but there we go. Listen, everyone that has tuned in, a massive thank you to each and every single one of you. Make sure you go to the homepage now and check out the latest episode of The 12th Man featuring none other than AFTV legend, Barstool legend, that is Troops. He does us a favor. Normally do half an hour. Man did an hour with Monch yesterday, which is going to be good. Until next time, everybody, take care of yourselves. Goodbye, Terry the Baiter. Love it. Listen, take care. Goodbye. God bless. And we'll see